She told me she was pregnant. I remember the way she said it, softly, like a confession, her hands trembling just enough for me to notice. Emily stood in the kitchen, bathed in the golden light of the evening, her lips pressed together as if bracing for my reaction. But all I could do was stare, my mind struggling to catch up with the weight of her words. Pregnant? I repeated, my voice cracking slightly. Are you serious? She nodded, biting her lip, eyes glassy with what I assumed was joy, or maybe nerves. Yes, Michael, she whispered. We're going to have a baby. For a moment, the world slowed. My chest swelled with something I hadn't felt in years, a deep, unshakable sense of purpose. We had been trying for so long, through months of disappointment and hushed conversations about fertility specialists and adoption. And now, after all that waiting, all the uncertainty, this. I crossed the space between us in seconds, wrapping her in my arms. Emily, this is incredible. I breathed into her hair. I can't believe it. She let out a shaky laugh, leaning into me. I know. It doesn't feel real. I pulled back to look at her, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. How far along are you? I asked. Almost 6 weeks, she said quickly, as if she had rehearsed the answer. I just found out a few days ago. A few days ago. That stung, but I brushed it off. Maybe she had wanted to be sure before telling me. Maybe she was just nervous. I kissed her, slow and deep, trying to pour every ounce of love I had into that moment. We're going to be parents, I murmured against her lips. She smiled, but something flickered in her expression, something I couldn't quite place. But I ignored it, because I wanted to believe this was real. I wanted to believe that after all the pain, we had finally found our happiness. That night, as we lay in bed, I whispered dreams into the darkness. Plans for nurseries, baby names, all the ways our life was about to change. Emily listened, nodding, smiling, but she didn't say much. And in hindsight, I should have noticed. I should have asked why she was suddenly working late so often. Why her phone was always face down on the counter. Why, for the first time in our marriage, she felt like a stranger lying beside me. But I didn't, because I was too caught up in the illusion. The first time I felt it, that unsettling, creeping doubt, it was small, just a whisper in the back of my mind. But once doubt settles in, it doesn't leave. It grows, feeding on every little inconsistency, every tiny thing that doesn't quite add up. It started with the doctor's appointments. A week after Emily told me she was pregnant, I brought up the first ultrasound. When's your appointment? I want to be there, I said, already picturing the grainy black and white image of our baby. She hesitated, just for a second, just long enough for me to notice. Oh, I haven't scheduled it yet, she said, flipping through a magazine on the kitchen counter. I was going to do it today. I frowned. You found out over a week ago and didn't call the doctor? She let out a soft laugh, the kind that was meant to make me feel like I was overreacting. Michael, I just wanted to take it all in first, you know? I'll make an appointment tomorrow. I forced a smile. Okay, just let me know when it is. But she never did. Days passed, then a week. Every time I asked about it, she had another excuse. The clinic was booked up. She had a work meeting that conflicted. She wasn't feeling great and wanted to wait another few days. I told myself not to push. Pregnancy was a huge change, and Emily had always been private about personal things. Maybe she just needed time. Then there was the work thing. Emily had always been dedicated to her job, but lately, she was putting in more late nights than ever. She brushed it off as a busy season, a new client that required extra attention. But it wasn't just that she was working late, it was how she acted when she got home. She'd slip in quietly, like she didn't want to wake me. When I'd ask how her day was, she'd be vague, answering in half sentences, distracted. Some nights, she'd shower the moment she walked in, and I'd lie in bed listening to the sound of the water running, wondering why my wife, the woman carrying my child, felt like she was slipping further and further away. And then, one night, she did something she had never done before. She turned away from me when I reached for her in bed. I wasn't expecting anything. I wasn't trying to start something. I just wanted to feel close to her, to wrap my arms around her, the way I always did. But the moment my hand touched her waist, she tensed. "I'm exhausted," she muttered. I pulled my hand back as if burned. I didn't say anything. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling a hollowness settle in my chest. I should have said something. I should have asked if she was okay, if something was wrong. But I was afraid of the answer. Because deep down, I already knew. I told myself it was just hormones. Stress. Maybe she was overwhelmed by the pregnancy, by the thought of motherhood. That's what I clung to because the alternative, the nagging thought that something was deeply, irreversibly wrong, was too much to bear. But the cracks were getting harder to ignore. One night, I stayed up waiting for her. Emily had texted me at 6:45 p.m. "Working late again. Don't wait up. Love you." I stared at the message for a long time, fingers hovering over the keyboard, debating whether to call her. But what would I even say? "Come home. I miss you. I don't trust you." So I waited. Hours passed. I pretended to watch TV, but I wasn't paying attention. My eyes kept darting to the clock. 9:30, 10:15, 11:50. Finally, at 12:22 a.m., I heard the front door click open. She moved quietly, slipping off her heels in the hallway. But when she saw me sitting on the couch, she froze. "You're still up?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. I studied her. The faint sheen of sweat on her skin, the flush on her cheeks, the way she wouldn't quite meet my eyes. "Yeah," I said. "Figured I'd wait for you." She smiled, but it was tight, forced. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to." For a moment, we just stood there, staring at each other. Then I said it. The words had been sitting on my tongue for days, weeks, festering like an open wound. "Emily, are you really pregnant?" The color drained from her face so fast it made my stomach twist. "What?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. I stood up, closing the space between us. I don't understand, Em. You haven't scheduled an appointment. You never talk about the baby. You're barely home." "I don't." I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling sharply. "I don't know what to believe anymore." Her lower lip trembled. For a split second, I thought she might break, confess whatever it was she was hiding. Then she shook her head, her expression hardening. "I can't believe you're asking me that. Can you blame me?" Her eyes flashed with something, anger, or maybe fear. "Michael, I am pregnant. I can't believe you would even suggest that I'm lying about something like this." Her words should have reassured me. They didn't, because I had been married to this woman for 5 years. I knew her voice, her mannerisms, the way she looked when she was telling the truth. And right now, she was lying to me. But I didn't push. Not yet. Because now, I needed proof. And if Emily wasn't going to give me the truth willingly, I was going to find it myself. That night, after Emily went to bed, I sat alone in the dark, staring at my phone, my mind racing. She was lying to me. I was sure of it. But why? What kind of person fakes a pregnancy? I needed answers. The next morning, when she was in the shower, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her purse. My hands were shaking as I unzipped it, my heart pounding in my ears. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. A doctor's appointment card? Prenatal vitamins? Something, anything, to confirm that she was telling the truth. But there was nothing. No ultrasound pictures. No prenatal vitamins. No appointment reminders. Nothing. Just her wallet, some old receipts, and, at the very bottom, a folded-up napkin with a phone number scrawled in unfamiliar handwriting. No name, just the number. A cold, sick feeling settled in my gut. Before I could stop myself, I pulled out my phone and dialed it. The line rang once, twice. Then a man's voice answered. "Hello?" I froze. My mouth opened, but no words came out. The voice was young, confident, and familiar. I had heard it before. Then it hit me. I had met him once. At Emily's office Christmas party. A younger colleague. A rising star in her company. His name was Ryan. And in that moment, I knew. It wasn't just the pregnancy that was a lie. Our entire marriage was. I hung up before Ryan could say another word. My hands were shaking so badly that I nearly dropped the phone. It's him. I sat there, the napkin clenched in my fist, my mind racing. There was no logical reason for his number to be hidden in my wife's purse. No innocent explanation that made sense. Emily had been lying to me. And now, I had a name. When she came downstairs a few minutes later, wrapped in a robe, rubbing her hair with a towel, I forced myself to stay calm. "Morning," she said, kissing my cheek. She smelled like lavender shampoo and something else. Something sharp and artificial, like she was covering up a scent that didn't belong to me. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. "Morning." She smiled, completely unaware that I had just discovered the first real thread of her betrayal. But I didn't confront her. Not yet, because I needed to know everything first. That afternoon, while she was at work, I drove to her office. I told myself I just wanted to see. Maybe she was working late. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was losing my mind. But deep down, I already knew what I would find. I parked across the street and waited. At 6:45 p.m., Emily walked out the front doors, not alone. Ryan was with her. They weren't touching. Not yet. But they were close. Closer than two colleagues needed to be. They stood there on the sidewalk, talking, laughing. Emily tucked her hair behind her ear, something she always did when she was flirting. And then, right there under the dim glow of a street lamp, she reached out and touched his arm. It was subtle, almost nothing, but I felt it. I felt everything. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I could have gotten out of the car, walked up to them, confronted her right there. But I didn't. Because this wasn't just about rage. This was about justice. Emily had lied to me. About the pregnancy. About where she was. About everything. And now, I was going to make sure she paid for it. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Emily's slow, steady breathing beside me. She had no idea that just a few hours ago, I had watched her with him. No idea that I had seen the way she smiled at Ryan. The way she used to smile at me. No idea that I knew. But she would. And when she did, it wouldn't just be a confrontation. It would be a reckoning. The next morning, I started planning. First, I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof. Something she couldn't twist or explain away. I started with her phone. Emily had always been careful, never leaving it unattended for too long, always keeping it face down. But that morning, while she was in the shower, she made a mistake. She left it unlocked. I grabbed it, my heart hammering, and opened her messages. It was worse than I imagined. There were no messages from Ryan in her regular texts. She had deleted them. But in her hidden messaging app, the one she thought I didn't know about, there they were. "Ryan, I can't wait to see you tonight." Emily, "Me too. I wish I could just be with you all the time." Ryan, "Soon. Just say the word." Emily, "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Michael is starting to suspect something." My blood turned to ice. She knew I was suspicious, and she didn't care. I scrolled further. More texts. More late-night rendezvous. More lies. And then, the final nail in the coffin. "Ryan, do you think he'll believe the baby is his?" Emily, "He has to. He's too desperate to be a dad to question it." I nearly dropped the phone. It wasn't just that she was cheating. She had never been pregnant. It was all a manipulation. A lie to keep me locked in place while she had her fun with someone else. My entire body trembled as I put the phone back exactly where I found it. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war. And I was going to make sure Emily lost everything. Knowing the truth and exposing it were two different things. Emily was smart, calculated. If I confronted her now, she'd twist it, cry, gaslight me into thinking I was the one destroying our marriage. No, I needed to be strategic. I needed to humiliate her the way she had humiliated me. And I knew exactly how to do it. I started gathering evidence. Screenshots of her messages with Ryan, timestamps of her late nights at work that lined up with their meetups. I even found a hidden album on her phone labeled receipts. Pictures of fancy dinners, hotel rooms, even a selfie of them together in a dimly lit bar. Every lie she had ever told me was there, documented in full color. By the time I was done, I had enough to destroy her. And I knew the perfect audience for it. Our families. Emily was close to her parents. Her father, a man who had once pulled me aside before our wedding and said, "Take care of my little girl." He had no idea what kind of woman she had become. Neither did my parents, who had loved her like a daughter. So I decided they would be the first to know. I planned a dinner, a celebration of Emily's pregnancy. She was thrilled. "Oh my God, Michael, this is perfect. They're going to be so excited." I forced a smile. "Yeah, it's going to be unforgettable." She had no idea how right she was. Over the next few days, I played my part flawlessly. I acted like the loving, doting husband, telling her how excited I was for our future. I even bought her a small gift, a silver bracelet with a tiny charm shaped like a baby footprint. She cried when she saw it. "You're amazing," she whispered, hugging me tight. I hugged her back, feeling nothing but cold, burning hatred, because I knew what was coming. And she had no idea. The night of the dinner, everything was set. Emily dressed up, glowing with fake joy, playing the role of the loving wife and mother-to-be. I watched her with a quiet fascination, wondering how many times she had lied to my face without me seeing it before. Not anymore. Our families arrived one by one, filling our home with warmth and laughter. Emily's parents hugged her tightly, tears in her mother's eyes. "Our first grandbaby," she whispered. "We're so happy for you, sweetheart." I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat. I had to wait for the perfect moment. Dinner was served, and we all sat around the table, toasting to the baby. Emily smiled, clinking her glass against mine, her fingers lacing through mine like we were some perfect couple. And then, when everyone was settled, I stood up. "I just want to thank you all for coming tonight," I began, my voice calm, steady. "This is such an important moment for Emily and me. A baby changes everything, you know? It makes you think about the future, about trust, about family." Emily beamed at me, completely unaware that I was about to rip her world apart. I pulled out my phone, and since we're all here to celebrate, I thought it was only right that I share something special with you. Emily's smile faltered. "Michael, what are you?" I turned the screen toward the table, pressing play on the slideshow I had prepared. The first image appeared, Emily and Ryan in that dimly lit bar. A few people gasped. Emily's face went pale. "Michael, stop." I didn't. The next image, a screenshot of Ryan's text. "Do you think he'll believe the baby is his?" Emily's mother let out a sharp breath. "Emily, what is this?" Emily shook her head wildly. "I don't know, this is fake." "Michael, please." Another image. Another text. "He has to. He's too desperate to be a dad to question it." Silence. Thick. Heavy. Emily's father stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. "Is this true?" Emily opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She was caught. Exposed. I turned to her, my voice ice cold. "You never planned on having a baby. You just wanted to keep me distracted while you screwed someone else." She burst into tears, but no one moved to comfort her. Not her parents. Not mine. Even Ryan, who had texted her just hours ago, wasn't here to save her. I let the silence drag, then exhaled. "So, Emily, since we're being honest now, why don't you tell everyone exactly how long you've been lying to me?" She sobbed. "Michael, please. I love you." I stared at her, expressionless. "No, Emily. You love lying to me." The room was thick with shame. Hers, not mine. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. And Emily? She had finally run out of lies. Emily sat there, her face streaked with tears, her chest rising and falling in short, panicked breaths. Her mother covered her mouth with trembling fingers, while her father's expression darkened with disappointment. No, disgust. I waited for her to say something, anything, that could possibly explain away the evidence flashing on the screen in front of them. But there was nothing left for her to say. "Michael," she finally croaked, reaching for my hand. "Please, we can talk about this." I pulled away so fast she flinched. "Talk?" I repeated, letting the word roll over my tongue like it was foreign to me. "Oh, now you want to talk? After lying to me for months? After faking an entire pregnancy to keep me in your little web while you ran around with?" I turned to her parents, who were still frozen in horror. This guy? Her father, a man who had always been measured, calm, and logical, slammed his fist against the table. The sound was sharp, final. How dare you? His voice trembled with rage. Emily let out a sob, shaking her head, but he wasn't looking at her anymore. He turned to me instead, his jaw clenched. Michael, he swallowed hard, as if struggling to contain his emotions. I don't know what to say. I did. She doesn't deserve your sympathy. Emily gasped. Michael, stop. I ignored her. She's been playing all of us. Lying to you, lying to me, lying about carrying a child. And for what? I turned to her, my voice sharp as a knife. To keep me under control while you had your fun with Ryan? Her lips parted, but I saw it. The flicker of guilt in her eyes. She had nothing left. Nothing but her shame. You were everything to me, Emily. My voice cracked, and for a second, I almost hated myself for still feeling anything at all. I would have done anything for you. And this is what I get. Silence. Finally, her mother spoke. Emily, tell me this isn't true. Emily sobbed into her hands. Her mother closed her eyes, as if she wished she could erase the last 10 minutes from existence. Her father, however, simply stood up, shaking his head at her. You're not the daughter I raised. He turned to me. Michael, whatever you need from us, we're here. Emily's head snapped up in shock. Dad. But he was already walking away, his wife following him, shaking with silent grief. And then it was just me and Emily. I stood there, looking at the woman I had once loved so deeply. The woman I had built a future with, sacrificed for, dreamed with. And now, she was nothing to me. I exhaled, shaking my head. You don't deserve me. Then I turned and walked away. And for the first time in a long, long time, Emily was the one left behind. The house was suffocatingly quiet after everyone left. Emily sat at the dining table, motionless, her face buried in her hands. The woman who had once held my heart, who had once been my everything, now looked small, broken. I should have felt something for her. Pity, regret, anything. But I didn't. I felt free. I turned and walked toward the stairs, ready to put as much distance between us as possible. But just as I reached the hallway, her voice, hoarse from crying, stopped me. Michael, please don't do this. I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. You did this, Emily. Not me. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I can fix this. We can fix this. Just listen to me. I turned to face her, my jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. Fix what? I gestured around the empty house. The lies? The betrayal? The pregnancy that never even existed? She flinched. Michael, I was scared. No, I cut her off. You were selfish. You weren't scared, Emily. You calculated this. You lied to me, to your parents, to everyone, just so you could keep me wrapped around your finger while you slept with someone else. Tears streamed down her face, but I didn't care. Not anymore. I love you, she whispered, her voice breaking. I never wanted to lose you. I shook my head slowly. You didn't love me, Emily. My voice was calm now, almost eerily so. You just loved having me as an option. Her lips parted, but she didn't deny it. She couldn't. I exhaled, running a hand through my hair. I had wasted too much time on this woman, on this lie. I walked to the foyer, grabbed my keys, and pulled open the front door. Michael, where are you going? She asked, her voice panicked. I turned back one last time, looking at the woman I had once planned a life with. I don't know, I admitted, but anywhere is better than here. Then I walked out, and this time, I wasn't coming back. The night air was cold against my skin as I stepped outside, but I welcomed it. I needed to feel something real, something that wasn't wrapped in lies and betrayal. I got into my car and just drove. No destination, no plan. Just the road stretching endlessly ahead, taking me away from everything I thought my life was supposed to be. At a red light, my phone buzzed. Emily. I stared at the screen, my pulse steady. A few weeks ago, I would have answered. I would have needed to hear her voice, to understand, to fix things. Now, I let it ring. Then another text came in. Michael, please. We need to talk. We didn't. I blocked her number. The light turned green, and I pressed the gas, driving forward without looking back. I ended up at a bar on the edge of town. One of those dimly lit places where no one asked questions. I sat at the counter, ordered a whiskey, and let the burn of it settle deep in my chest. I wasn't sad. Not really. I was relieved. For the first time in a long time, I didn't have to pretend anymore. I didn't have to smile through the lies. I didn't have to hold on to something that had been rotting from the inside out. I was done. I finished my drink, exhaled slowly, and made a decision. Tomorrow, I'd call a lawyer. Emily had built our marriage on deception, but I would be the one to end it. For good. The morning light crept through the blinds, casting long shadows across the room. I sat on the edge of the bed in my motel room, staring at the blank wall, my mind clearer than it had been in weeks. I had made my decision. Emily and I were over. There was no fixing this. No salvaging a relationship built on manipulation and betrayal. I picked up my phone, found the number I had looked up last night, and dialed. A woman's voice answered on the second ring. Harrison and Company. Law firm. How can I help you? I exhaled, gripping the phone a little tighter. Yes, I need to file for divorce. Saying the words out loud sent a strange rush through me. Not sadness. Not anger. Freedom. The receptionist took down my information, scheduling a consultation for the next day. When I hung up, I felt lighter, like a weight I had been carrying for far too long had finally been lifted. Emily would fight it. She would cry, beg, maybe even try to manipulate me one last time. But it didn't matter. She lost me the moment she decided to fake a life we were never going to have. And as I stepped outside into the crisp morning air, taking my first real breath in what felt like years, I realized something. I wasn't just walking away from Emily. I was walking towards something better, something real. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready. The end. If you like this story, please like and subscribe to the channel.